Welcome to Leigh Dickey TV. Hit subscribe to follow along with the fun. Now let's get on to today's video. Here's a wrestling hypothetical that's been kicked around forever. What if Hulk Hogan didn't turn heel and become the NWO's third man? I give you my thoughts and a commentary on who I think it could have been next. Alright, so if Hulk Hogan didn't turn heel at Bash at the Beach 96 and join the NWO as their third man, who do I think it could have been? Now, it's been kicked around forever. I mean, it's been 25 years since the formation of the NWO, because they formed at Bash at the Beach 96. Hogan, Hall, Nash, right? Hogan, everybody thinks he's going to make the save, but he turns on Randy Savage, drops the leg, joins the NWO, and the rest is history. He changes wrestling history forever, turns heel for the first time ever, and, well, we're off to the races, and basically WCW printed money for a 2-year span or something like that until Austin McMahon and the wheels fell off. But who do I think it could have been? Who do I think the third man could have been had Hogan decided to stay with the babyface route and stay in the red and yellow gear? So it's been said, I think mostly by Scott Hall, that, or at least I've seen in previous interviews, at least from Scott Hall, that the NWO, basically it was all former WWE guys. You had Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, both of who had previously worked for WCW under various gimmicks. I think Scott Hall was the Diamond Stud, Kevin Nash was Oz, Vinny Vegas, and he had a plethora of tag teams before he went to the WWE in, I think, was it 1990, late 92, early 93, something like that. And it's been said that, I think, like I said, by Scott Hall in previous interviews, at least from what I've seen and heard, that the third man in the NWO had to be a WWE guy. And they were trying to get Hogan to turn, and he was reluctant, right? And according to an interview, I think on one of the DVDs, it might have been the Rise and Fall of WCW, or even like the NWO DVD that the WWE put out a few years ago, that Bischoff went to Hogan's house and tried to convince him to turn heel so they could do this sort of NWO thing. And he said, "Eric, till you walk a mile in my red and yellow boots, you'll never get it." And basically showed him the door, right? And I think Bischoff has said this, and the third guy was going to be Sting. And to be honest, I wouldn't have had a problem with it, right? I think at the time, like, Sting had grown his hair out and he had dyed it black, because he wasn't doing the sort of surfer Sting blonde flat top anymore. But he was still on, say, Team WCW, like, he was still still flying the WCW colors, but he had sort of an issue with WCW in storyline anyway. Like, he was frustrated with the way things were going, and he would just get angry, right? You'd see that on TV. Or am I a few months behind after sort of the NWO debuted? I can't remember, but if memory serves me right, Sting wasn't quite a babyface, but he wasn't quite a heel, and he hadn't quite gotten to Crow Sting yet, and he was sort of in storyline getting frustrated with the way things were going for WCW. But I've heard from Bischoff or other people, maybe even a bit like of Scott Hall, that Sting would have been the third guy, right? Again, I wouldn't have had a problem with it, but as Scott Hall stated in an interview that I saw, it had to be a WWE guy. And who's the ultimate WWE guy? Even though he came over from the AWA, he made the bulk of his fortune and the bulk of his notoriety came from the WWE, and Hulk Hogan is the ultimate WWE guy, and nobody is going to dispute that fact. And if you do, all right, good for you. But I would think doesn't matter who comes along after, right? Cena, it doesn't matter. Reigns, I don't care. The ultimate WWE guy is Hulk Hogan. And obviously he turned heel at Bash of the Beach 96, and WCW started printing money for a couple of years until Austin McMahon and then Tyson at Mania 14, and then the wheels just kept falling off for WCW until they were sold in early 2001 to the WWE. Alright, so who do I think it could have been if it weren't Hogan, if he said, hey, I'm going to stay here on the babyface side of things, and they decided not to go with Sting, and you had to have the ultimate WWE guy, because, like, no disrespect to Sting, but he wasn't the ultimate WWE guy. If you couldn't get Hogan, right, who could you get? My opinion, Randy Savage. You had, like, you know, going back to Sting, he was the ultimate sort of Crockett Promotions, NWA, WCW guy, because I think he came over with Watts when I think he sold the UWF, was it? And then Sting was part of that package, so he went over to the NWA and WCW and what have you, right? Just became their cornerstone, their version of The Undertaker. And, like, again, no disrespect to Sting, but if you wanted to keep it in the ultimate WWE guy realm, if Hogan decides, hey, I'm going to stay on the babyface side because I like the red and yellow, right? I like being a babyface. I like, you know, saying your prayers, eating your vitamins, all that stuff. I think the Macho Man, Randy Savage, why not? If you can't get Hogan to turn heel, Randy Savage. Yes, he eventually joined the NWO, but by that point, what was the point? He was like Hogan's number 2, and I think at that point it basically was pointless to have him in the NWO as a heel. If you couldn't get Hogan to turn in 96 to join off the bat, who's next, right? Who is directly underneath and who's also the ultimate WWE guy? I'm thinking the Macho Man, Randy Savage. He could have been the third guy, my opinion, and I'll tell you why in just a second. Why Randy Savage if Hogan doesn't turn heel at Bash of the Beach 96 and become the leader of the NWO? Why Randy Savage? Why not? Who else are you going to get? Who else is like an ultimate WWE guy, right? Like, if they have problems on the babyface side, like if Hogan's going to stay babyface after Bash of the Beach 96, you need somebody, and Savage is already in the match, so why not have him turn on his teammates and go, you know what, guys, this isn't working. Clothesline, elbow, 1, 2, 3. By the way, I'm part of this camp. I'm with Hall. I'm with Nash. Like, I would have him just be the leader of the NWO. Hogan's going to stay babyface. Why not? Granted, if, say, WCW is, they're not struggling for babyfaces at that point. Like, yes, Savage was a babyface going into the match at Bash of the Beach 96. But, like, you had Hogan, if he's going to stay babyface after Bash of the Beach. You have Flair. You have Sting, right? You've got the rest of the Horsemen. There are a ton of people on that roster that can stay babyfaces, right? You have, again, Flair, Sting, Hogan's going to stay babyface, right? So why not turn Savage? Boom. You need an ultimate WWE guy? Savage is it. If Hogan's not going to turn, Savage. Guys, I tell you what, I know I've been teaming with you, but something's not working. Boom. Elbow drop, 1, 2, 3. Savage is that third guy. Now, granted, would he have gotten the reaction that Hogan did at Bash of the Beach 96? You could make the argument that he wouldn't have, and that Hogan is the bigger draw, or that he was and always will be the bigger draw and the bigger name to be drafted into the ranks of the NWO, or ever in the business. But I don't think having Savage sort of join the NWO later made any sense. So, if Hogan's going to stay babyface, cool, have Savage turn mid-match and join Hall and Nash, or have him turn at the end, have him cut a promo, or have him, like, just cost his team the match, because it was already a handicap match, right? Because they were building up to who's the third man. So why not have Savage? There you go, problem solved. To be fair, if Hogan had stayed on the babyface side of things and you get Savage to turn heel, right? And if you guys aren't keen on Randy Savage as the leader of the NWO, if Hogan stays babyface, who else are you going to get? Who else do they have? You know, I can't necessarily... Was Ted DiBiase under contract at WCW at that point? Maybe you could say, like, the $1 Million Man was a great gimmick, and he did great things in the WWE. He was a great talent, but was he as over as either both Randy Savage or Hulk Hogan? Was it one of those things where you're just like, yeah, okay, this would work too? Like, if it's not Savage and it's not Hogan, like if you guys are dead set against having Savage turn, right? If Hogan stays babyface, okay, so who else are you going to get? Was Ted DiBiase? Like, he's the only other, say, technically WWE guy, even if he was one for the bulk of his career, I don't know. But would it have been Ted DiBiase? Can you say that he was, like, next in line, I guess? Because they were thinking Sting at one point, and he is not a WWE guy. When you think Sting, the wrestler, Steve Borden, you think either the NWA, Jim Crockett Promotions, and WCW, or you think his time in TNA or Impact, right? It's not, you don't think his time in WWE, that's just basically a footnote in his entire career, right? Because he was very, like, probably there for less than a year, if that, maybe 2 matches, and then that's it, right? But I think Randy Savage would have been my choice. If Hogan had stayed on the babyface side of things, going into Bash at the Beach at 96, to be the third man in the NWO, fine, flip Savage mid-match, right? And there you go, you're off to the races. Would it have been as successful? Probably not, maybe not, I don't know, can't say, right? Because Hogan, I guess you could say, came to his senses, turned heel, and started printing money for like a 2-year period. And even then, like, the NWO Hogan Hall Nash is still one of the most talked about things in wrestling today, aside from like other things like DX or the Four Horsemen, or right, just one of the biggest things in wrestling in, say, the last 25 years. So if it wasn't Hogan, my pick would have been Savage. What about you? If Hogan had stayed on the babyface side of things going into Bash at the Beach 96, who would you have lead the NWO? Who would be your pick as the NWO's third man? List it down in the comments. Put it down in the comments. Let me know on social media. Follow at Leigh T. Dickey on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Please do like Leon Wrestling on Facebook as well. But this wraps up another video and another episode of Pinfall, a Pro Wrestling Podcast, and another video on Leigh Dickey TV. You can find the audio version of this episode on Pinfall, a Pro Wrestling Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Please comment, like, share, and subscribe right here to Leigh Dickey TV, the YouTube channel. Find my podcast, the Beats and Speaks Podcast, Yo Nostalgia, and Pinfall, a Pro Wrestling Podcast on your favorite podcast app and player of choice. Leave us 5-star ratings and reviews if you would, please and thank you. But I am signing off. My name is Leigh Dickey. This wraps up another episode, another video. Thanks again for watching. Please do take care, and we will talk to you later. Peace. Thanks for tuning in to Leigh Dickey TV. New episodes are available every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Subscribe to follow along with the fun.